All right, so this is our epoxy here. As you can see, it laid out. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like rubber. I didn't scuff this, and really the cutout runs along like this edge. So except for down in here a little bit, which is going to be kind of hard to see. So we're going to try and see how hard this stuff got. I'm going to get some sandpaper. We're going to play out here where you can't really see it. This still almost feels rubbery. And then we're going to take because this is going to have to be leveled out here. This is going to have to be leveled out a little bit here. And then we got to see if it'll take paint at all. And mind you, it's not super warm in here, but we do already have a small countertop cut out for this, for the barn dominium / studio / whatever the hell I'm doing with my life. And let's get going. Okay. This is, I guess, 100 grit. We're not going to use a block. We're not going to do anything fancy. We're not going to put a power sander on it. We're just going to see if we can actually sand it at all without it melting. I'm going to go right in here. When I say melting, I mean like just severely loading up. It is, as you can see, it's cutting some ridges off. It's I'll be honest, I expected worse. So all right, well, I guess let's get a plug in and see what this does. Let's do this for real, and we'll try and may set some sort of a line. Just kind of see. I don't want to get too far up on this edge yet, but I do want to open the grain structure on this if I can, like this, and see if I can get it to. I want to test paint this back here because I have some epoxy paint. I'm not sure how it's going to blend in or how it's going to take. I also know it's kind of cool out here, so we're going to see how that works. All right, we have this is 120 grit. So I don't know why, and it's been up 70, 80 degrees a couple days. This stuff stinks still, like it's fresh. I don't know, and you can see. I probably should have sanded some of this finish off first, but you can see when it gets close to the edges, it just lifts. Like when it gets thin, like that. The sander is even worse because it's like it's got heat in it. It seems strong enough, but it's nasty. I don't know. I guess here you saw. I don't know, this stuff is just weird. You can see down here, I'm just pulling. This is not a special knife. If I remember correctly, I submitted a review to get it. Any place where it was not chipped out real bad, like anything I put over the enamel seems to have not set up well. I don't know why that is. And I don't just mean that like it doesn't have adhesion. I expected it to not adhere to the stuff without enamel. What I mean is, in places it's rubbery. Now, I mixed it in that little tray that came in the package and did not expect, it was weird like the next day, but I thought, well, it hadn't been warm enough. So I let it sit for about a week. At that point, I just wanted to remove any operator error, if you will. See how some of that's set up all right down there. But the stuff right next to it didn't. I don't know, it was all done the same night. See? So the temperature was the same, application temperature. Seems like it's mostly the thin stuff that's soft, but I do run across like that cut and scraped off like nothing. But I had some stuff like that was down here that was tough as all hell. Now keep in mind, like I said, this is an undermount sink. There's some of this just ain't going to be seen, but I do want to know if we can paint this stuff. It's like chunks of it solidified correctly. Oh. I will say that with its varied consistency, scraping it does a lot better job than sanding it. So much dust. So when you're trying to get this crap off, notice you kind of pull across, push out. Eventually you get to a point where you're going pull across, fold, pull across, fold, pull across, fold, fold, spin, something. You're trying to get all your dirt away from your surface. Now that was just water on that, and I can still tell this feels kind of weird and gummy. I'll be honest, I don't think that's going to go away. I'm not super impressed as the dust has gone down on it. Even though I know it's fairly solid, it still feels gummy. I don't know. I don't like it. Maybe it dries in the absence of air. There's a name for that. I don't know what it is, but I'm not super thrilled with this product. I wish I had used like the regular old 2-part epoxy that you get from Walmart, or I guess I've been buying it from Harbor Freight, and then going through and backfilling over top of it with super glue. Really getting much better results out of that. So we're gonna try and go ahead and do a little something just to touch this up. But I'm really not happy with this product, and I hate to say that because they make fairly good stuff in a lot of applications. I'll go on that rant after I get everything else ready. So those of you that know me on a project level know that Rust-Oleum is my thing. So we're going to use this. And I'm going to catch a lot of hate over this. This is a door shim. Just watch. Just shut up and watch. If it turns out like hell, I'll tell you it turns out like hell, like I did this. Not happy with this. I know there's texture. Doesn't matter. There's only a small corner of this over here you're going to see. I just flatten this out because the mating surface of the... I'm just trying to see if it works, okay? Science. Things. Now, ideally, if we're dropping drips, is all we're doing. We're going into the low spots, the grain's open on this. We're trying to drop larger. We're not doing like a thin coating thing. We're trying to do this enough so it'll flow out. There's some people out there that aren't going to like this at all. That's fine. There's little places in here, little bitty places where the grain structure is, where any crack or anything, things just aren't perfectly level. And on those places where you got this spray paint, which is actively gassing off, so it's getting thicker. As it becomes more viscous, we can get it to stay in place better. Could I do this with a brush? Probably. Does a brush have an issue with kind of absorbing a little more paint, holding paint? This, that. You know, there are guys that are excellent at that. I usually use a toothpick, actually. But I find that sometimes like a zip tie or something with a flat surface actually lets me kind of shovel the paint. Because I'm trying to lay paint on, not like brush paint in or in any little spot like right there where it's sticking up. All right, you'll be able to see places where an air bubble comes out. All we're doing, especially as this paint gets a little bit thicker, which it's actively trying to, just from the warmth of the cup in my hand, and I say cup, it's actually the lid. We are dropping this in there, and the theory is here that it's surface tension. You know, grease sits on top of water when you got warm water in a pan. If your auntie made you a lasagna and you're working on eating it, and then you got to wash the pan and you let it sit for a couple days because you're a lazy SOB, and you go in there and that surface tension holds that grease on there, so you put a couple drops of dish soap on there, and that surface tension breaks and that grease all runs to the edges, right? Or if you look real close at something that's got water in it, like a cup, and it's still like filling up, like as it fills, the surface tension grabs onto the edges of the cup and kind of makes it like it's all humped up in the middle. So that's what we're, see, if you watch real close, you can see along these edges. We're not painting over top of these cracks. We are dropping paint into the crack. I know that sounds stupid, but the surface tension of the paint is what makes this possible. We're pushing the paint towards it. This is why brushes are weird on stuff like this, and they actually sell little toothpick fillers and stuff in the detail industry for this. Let's call them toothpick dental, I guess, deals. They're almost like eyedroppers to drop paint in on stuff like this. The other thing is, at this point, this paint is nearly self-leveling. See, I gotta run. See it? Watch it right there. I can touch the edge of it like this and draw that run out. Now, they're a son of a gun. You can do like this and draw the paint up. But at that point, you're almost defeating the purpose of not using a brush. I know this is stupid. I could have gotten all sorts of different things to do this quote unquote correctly. But the fact is, I kind of wanted to just, I won't say show off, but show that it could be done, try and make this work right. Again, I do not like this epoxy that I used at all. Now that we've drawn the paint over here, it's too, it's too thin right there, because once it's had paint on it, that's it. There is no surface tension anymore. And it will do like that and just drop like a stone all the way through that puddle that we had there. And that's fine. I'll go back and mess with it here in a minute. You see, as we went downhill, we drew that out and over to help reduce the weight of paint that was fighting against the surface tension. Again, this is not a perfect method. It does require some cleanup. I never said it didn't, but it does allow me to quote unquote drop paint down in low spots and holes and it to be sort of self-leveling as we go, and I kind of go back and touch up like that. Now as you look at the light here, you'll begin to see that I have the ability to look at different angles than this camera does in a lot of ways, and you'll begin to see if you have something, especially if you've got like a light fixture that's just like a stick kind of thing, like the ones I buy at Rural King. Drop. They'll create like a line, and you'll be able to roll your head, your perspective back and forth, and that'll allow you to see imperfections in bodywork. Now, the lights they use in actual bodywork on automotive can get really expensive and really nice, and even they've got reflectors that are like black and white lines that you just look at that thing's reflection in the side of the car, and that gives you a pretty good idea of what it actually looks like, because those lines give it away, right? So I can see, as I look in the light, more imperfections than you can. You see a pretty damning looking one right there as I check the camera. There are lots of non-YouTube safe things to say about what that looks like from that area, and that's probably not even going to be showing once we get the once we get this mounted. The mount's another thing on these sinks. The mounts, they got all sorts of different ones, but they all kind of mount, with a few exceptions, they clamp the edges up. And if you start looking at the repair mounts and stuff that are adjustable for these real heavy, this thing weighs 120 pounds, these sinks, and you figure that, okay, well, they're going into better quality than laminate, because laminate doesn't like to hold this kind of stuff, because any laminate edge grain just absorbs water because it's made out of cardboard, more or less. But you'll notice that there's been a lot of pressure on the edges of these sinks, and since it was already broke on the corner, that is an interesting thing. So at this point, you can either buy one that goes underneath the belly of the sink down at the bottom of the bowls, where the weight is actually going to be, that's where the water's trying to go, it's trying to go down, and the gravity, let's support it at the low point where it's well engineered. Oh, okay. Low spot. So we're gonna build a DIY mount on this silly thing once we get this sort of okay. There had some paint that was kind of balled up right there, so it wasn't crossing that hump. There was just a little, like a line that we had in there, sort of sanded in. And then so I added a little bit to a low spot there, and I used my stick to break the surface tension, and then the paint rolled down the hill. I know, amazing. Yes, this stuff goes on thick, not just this product. But when you're working like this in this way, the reason I bring this up is this is appliance paint, and you're not going to be able to apply multiple thin coats and sand and buff and bevel and everything to try and make your appliance that you're repairing paint on if it's got chips and crap in it. That's not how your process is going to work. You're going to have, you know, maybe some scratches or whatever, but you're going to need to more or less drop paint. How do I phrase this right? You're going to want to drop a little bubble, a little droplet into a hole, and then disturb its surface tension in such a way that it lays down in it, and then allow it to dry. Now, I do have 2 runs right there. That's not the end of the world, because as we saw with the epoxy, I didn't prep this surface real well. It was really only prepped in the areas that didn't have epoxy on them anymore from being broke. Crap. I messed that up right there. Just now. The paint was a little drier than I thought it was. Now this stuff here, you'll be able to kind of see. I'm actually working this into, yeah, I know, just use a brush or spray it. Shut up. Does it really need this back here? No, it don't. We're just using this as kind of a sealant, just in case any water was to get past the sealant we use. Again, most of this is going to be under water, under countertop. And this really would be better with a brush. This part here, where I'm not trying to drop in paint in low spots to try and sort of make it halfway look good. And by look good, I mean I knew where the break was. I had thought this was a top mount sink. I'm lucky it wasn't, but when I bought it, I thought it was, because there wasn't a whole lot of paperwork with it, and the stuff that was with it was kind of under the sink itself and the packaging. And the packaging was broken. So I was going to make a cedar surround and just, water lock it or something to keep some marine epoxy to keep that off her, but now laws of averages state that whatever camera angle I have this on, is going to be the absolute worst possible view. Okay, just, yeah, go ahead, break. Nope, don't do it. Come on. So I know that to the camera, this looks pretty awful. It really does. Son of a gun. Okay. Is that about 1,000,000 times smoother than it was? Yes. But the does this look great? No, it does not. Am I happy with it? Nope. I am not. The only thing I'm happy about is that there's only a small part of this is going to show. I don't like how the epoxy laid down, the paint laid down like crap. In addition to that, okay, well, as usual, I'm my own worst enemy on this stuff. I tried no epoxy. It seems strong enough, but it's the basis for all the other rest of the finish on this. I could do some more sanding, buff this whole thing down. Set a line around the edge, tape it all up, newspaper it, break the glaze on everything else, go back with some real 2-part epoxy that is not that I did not enjoy most of my experience with that stuff. It smells awful. It sets up slow, it sets up weird. I'm not happy with how it's set up. It feels weird. I'm sure it's very strong because it's flexible. Yeah. So, I'm not happy. That stuff laid out like crap. It sands awful. It gets hot, it releases, it sets up, and no matter how good you try and mix it, because you guys saw me do it, it's got hot spots and cold spots that never fully hardened, I'm convinced, because even the smell. I didn't have it on terribly. It wasn't like I put it on 3/4 of an inch thick or something. I had stuff I was scraping off. I could still smell it, like it was still setting up. I'm sure it has a great application. It's not this. And when I'm going to go through and refinish part of this, I'll probably do a little bit of patchwork down in the corner once I got the lid to put on it. Once I got the countertop here, but I'm not thrilled. I'm not happy. It's my fault for choosing it. It's my fault for following through with it once I realized things were weird. Nope. No happy sink. I don't regret putting paint over it because when I put water on it, it almost immediately became grabby. Like all of a sudden, it's like it's rubber again. So, and I got rubber gloves on. Like I shouldn't feel. I don't like that product. I screwed up. I deviated from what I normally do. Broke, how do you say it? You break a boundary, you get a bad result. Yep, I knew what I wanted to use. I should have just bought regular old JB Weld or fake JB Weld or whatever, and I didn't. Yep. Well, thanks for watching. I will try and get some footage of the rest of this stuff as it goes together. I got a lot of heavy lifting to do and a back that's saying no more. And need to finish up the vanity, get some more boards in, and get the rest of the plumbing in. But we're coming together. I need to go buy another 100-foot roll of PEX tomorrow. So, anyways, that's that. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys. America.